Breaking news update, Julian Assange has been arrested. If you didn't see the news, British police went into the Ecuadorian embassy and carried him out. I couldn't believe it. I still can barely believe it. When it was announced a few days ago, I think about a week ago, that they were going to be arresting him, that it was impending, Ecuador denied this. And now you can see it, plain as day, New York Times. Julian Assange arrested on U.S. extradition warrant, London police say. So here's what I want to do. This is a very serious news story. I have 1,000,001 thoughts on WikiLeaks. Let's read through this and get the facts to the best of our ability. Whether or not you trust the New York Times, take it all with a grain of salt, but we're going to read this, and then I'll start talking about where we're at politically. This is huge. Before I get started, I just want to say one thing. Julian Assange was a hero to the left a long time ago. 8 years ago, 9 years ago, because he exposed war crimes, because he's anti-war. He challenged the system. Today, many on the left, they're cheering for this because of the Russiagate conspiracy nonsense, but there's a lot here. So let's read into it. Julian Assange, the WikiLeaks founder, who released reams of secret documents that embarrassed the United States government, was arrested by the British police on Thursday at the Ecuadorian embassy in London, where he has lived since 2012 after Ecuador withdrew the asylum it had granted him. I need to stress. Julian Assange is a journalist and a refugee. I'd love to see people outraged at a refugee being booted and arrested. The Metropolitan Police said that Mr. Assange had been detained partly in connection with an extradition warrant filed by the authorities of the United States, where he could face a charge of computer hacking, according to an American official, if he is extradited. We now know, according to, I believe this was released by the Associated Press. Let me see what they have here. So this is UK Met Police. This is really important. Yes. Okay. As Julian Assange, 47, has today, Thursday, 11 April, been further arrested on behalf of United States authorities. Yep. There you go. America. Now, a lot of people are crossing their fingers over whether or not WikiLeaks, Assange, may actually help investigate corruption within the U.S. government. I really doubt that's the case. There are a lot of people that are crossing their fingers and hoping that when they bring Assange here, assuming they extradite him because he was arrested for it, he will testify against the Clintons and other people. Well, that may be the case. I think what we're seeing here is, listen, if you want someone like Assange to testify, you just invite him and you drop all charges, but that's not the case. It's very clear that Assange is being accused of potentially, okay, violating Espionage Act. My understanding is that they're claiming he was working with Chelsea Manning. That, you know, so here's the thing. It's really, it's a really precarious situation, journalism, when you're dealing with leaks. And it's one of the reasons I tend to reject any and all sign of major leaks. I do not have the legal power to deal with this level of news. So I've had people reach out to me, and I'm sorry. As of right now, maybe in a year or two, I do not have the ability to do this, to deal with the legal ramifications, hire a lawyer. I mean, you look at the things that happened to Glenn Greenwald and Edward Snowden and the whistleblowers. Obama was charging journalists and whistleblowers under the Espionage Act. We're now seeing, you know, Julian Assange, by any metric, is a journalist. He receives documents, he publishes them, he redacts them, he works with law enforcement agencies to make sure there's no loss of life, like any other news outlet. It's just that Julian himself specifically focuses on leaks. Now, when you're a journalist, if you request documents or direct anyone, you are now essentially, my understanding is, a co-conspirator. I believe this is what they're trying to get him on, which will be interesting. We'll see what happens. I don't want to pretend like Julian Assange is squeaky clean, by no means, right? It's entirely possible that something actually happened, and we're all jumping the gun to the defense of someone because he served a political interest for people. You know, people like anti-war people like me back in 2010. It was like, wow, look what he's doing. And today, you have a lot of Trump people support him because the leaks that they put out, you know, peripherally helped Trump by, you know, being very damaging to the Clinton campaign. But just because of that doesn't mean we should ignore the potential that Assange maybe has done something. However, innocent until proven guilty, and you've got now government trampling over the rights of publications. This is not how these things should have been handled. And You know, when it comes to actually the Swedish claims of, sexual abuse or whatever, it's why he took refuge in the Ecuadorian embassy. We actually call this getting Assanged, okay? When maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but we do. It's when we feel, as journalists or people who work on important stories, somebody will present a false accusation against you because character assassination is so damn powerful. Saying that is not in any way to imply that the claims against Assange themselves are false. It's just that when you have journalists who are challenging the highest level of government and corporate infrastructure and administration and personalities, they want to destroy you. But they can't just kill you. There was even an instance where Hillary Clinton joked about drone striking Julian, saying something like, can't we just drone this guy or something? And it's like, he's in London. We can't drone strike London. And then later claimed it was like a joke. But the point is, you can see they really, really want to stop him. They don't want him doing what he's doing. It's bad for them. So one of the ways you do that is character assassination. False accusation, boom. Now all the people who once supported you are saying, oh, well, I don't know. I heard he's a rapist. Not true. Well, let's read on. President Lenin Moreno of Ecuador said on Twitter that his country has decided to stop sheltering Mr. Assange after his repeated violations of international conventions and daily life protocols. Now think about that for a second. He's taking away asylum from someone because of violations of international conventions and daily life protocols. What does that even mean? Is it because Julian Assange was continuing to do his work? Yes, possibly. A decision that cleared the way for the British authorities to detain him. The relationship between Mr. Assange and Ecuador has been a rocky one, even as it offered him refuge and even citizenship. And WikiLeaks said last Friday that Ecuador already has an agreement with the UK for his arrest and predicted that Mr. Assange would be expelled from the embassy within hours to days. They denied that. They lied. I don't trust these people. Video footage showed a bearded Mr. Assange being taken down the steps of the Red Brick Embassy in the wealthy area of Knightsbridge in central London by several plainclothes police officers and put into a grey police truck that was waiting to take him away. So we have the footage here. This is Reuploading. I'll show you the photo. I don't want to play the video necessarily because, you know what? I'll play the video anyway. Screw it. It's important news. But there's the photo of Assange being taken away. There's another photo of him giving a thumbs up, and he yelled something about they must resist as he was being arrested. You know what's really interesting is that you can see Julian right here being carried out. He looks like, he looks kind of like Ben Kingsley in Iron Man 3. He looks like the Mandarin. You can see there are protesters outside. And that's about it. I mean, you see the police carry him out. UK resist. UK must. It already has 1 million views. So I'll say this, right? This is really, really bad in my opinion because as far as any surface level discussions, it doesn't seem like Julian actually did anything wrong. I mean, Sweden withdrew the extradition, the arrest warrant for him, and it was always really the claims against him were very, very dubious. Again, I don't want to act like he's perfect or squeaky clean or completely innocent. No, of course not. But this, I mean, it's all so perfect. It's all so perfect that somebody of this stature is being accused of these things that smear and damage his credibility, and now here you have it. But as bad as this is, as worrying as this is, the fact that even The Guardian, okay, The Guardian, which is very far left and has written puff pieces about communism, said this is wrong. They wrote a piece, and that was even shocking. I think it was Glenn Greenwald who said that they're writing. Maybe it wasn't Glenn, but someone tweeted. A journalist said that The Guardian's coverage of Julian has been contemptible and awful, and even they recognize this is bad for everybody. Because think about it. You're a journalist. They just claim, oh, well, you know, you're working with the enemy, therefore you're under arrest. The UK, in my opinion, it's going full fascism, right? And I hate using that word, but no, let's think about like the academic understanding of what fascism was, the lucrative merger of corporation and state. Look at what's happening in the UK. Hate speech laws and rules, saying naughty words on Twitter, you get arrested. Yes, that's happening. And now, Julian Assange, he made the mistake of being in the UK. Right? I mean, if he was in the U.S., it wouldn't have been good either. But, it's, you know, I don't know if there's any safe place to try and do actual journalism that actually challenges the system. But again, as bad as it all is, I will say there is some good. Julian Assange has been locked up for 7 years. And that's terrifying and horrifying. And as bad as it is that he's being stripped of his asylum and kicked out, at least, I have to imagine there is still some feeling within him where he's like, I'm out of that building after 7 years, I believe it was. So hopefully he's not headed somewhere worse, and that's the issue. But I got to imagine there's probably a good feeling after 7 years of finally being out of that locked up tiny place. And now I'll say a few more things, right? I met Assange, I believe it was about just 2 years ago, actually 2 years ago. And it was honestly rather uneventful, but off the record, so nothing I would say of any real merit. But that Ecuadorian embassy place is tiny. Cooped up, you know. You know what? I'm not going to read through this whole thing. We get it. He was arrested. I'll read one more quote before making a final point. A lawyer for Mr. Assange accused the United States of conducting what he said was an unprecedented effort by the United States seeking to extradite a foreign journalist to face criminal charges for publishing truthful information. Hands down. But here's the thing. It has been speculated that there will be a fail-safe release. I don't know if that's the case. But my understanding is that WikiLeaks releases big packages, like 16 gig packages, with no key. They're encrypted. The only way to access the information is to get the encryption key, and that's the failsafe that's supposed to drop in the event that something happens to Julian. I don't track this stuff, you know, from on day-to-day issues, so, you know, I don't know where we're at with these things. But I am curious to see if something is going to come out. I also wonder if the reason it took so long to finally arrest him was because the U.S. was trying to stop any potential failsafe release, and they had to go step by step to think, you know, try and clean things up. But we'll see. You know, we'll see. You know, man, this is serious breaking news. It just happened. I literally woke up the second it was announced. I sit up in my bed. I picked up my phone, and the first thing I see, Julian Assange is being arrested. And I pulled up, and I saw that video from Reuploading right when it went up, and I just can't believe it. When they said he was going to be arrested hours to days a while ago, I thought, yeah, right, you know. I feel like WikiLeaks' people are just trying to like, hey, it's like we have an alert. It might happen. Everybody get ready. And then Ecuador denied it. And I'm like, yeah, they're probably going to back off. You know, they do this all the time. Nope, here we are. Here we are. So anyway, I mean, this is dangerous precedent. We've got people being banned from social media. The government saying, oh, but that's not, you know, we're not violating your free speech. But then in the UK, they arrest people for their speech. It seems like you've got our public free speech and the right to publish is dependent upon private corporations who don't guarantee our rights. We are losing our rights. And this is a journalist, by whatever metric you want to argue, it's a journalist being arrested on an extradition warrant for the United States. It's a terrifying precedent. I'll have another video for you coming up at 1 p.m. I'll see you then.